I wasn't supposed to die that day. I was 34 years old, a cardiologist at Chennai Apollo Hospital, and I had spent the last 12 years of my life saving hearts. Ironic, isn't it? I could restart a failing heart with precision and science, but my own heart, the one that should have beaten with faith, had been dead for years. My name is Rajesh, and I grew up in a traditional Hindu family in Tamil Nadu. My grandmother would wake at 4 in the morning to perform puja, the scent of incense filling our small home as she chanted Sanskrit mantras I never understood. My mother fasted every Thursday for Lord Vishnu. My father made the pilgrimage to Tirupati 3 times in his life. And me? I went through the motions. I touched the feet of elders. I attended temple festivals. I wore the sacred thread. But my heart? My heart belonged to science. When I was 17, everything changed. My younger sister, Priya, was diagnosed with leukemia. She was only 12, bright-eyed, always laughing, the light of our family. My parents prayed. They fasted. They donated money to temples across South India. They took her to priests who performed elaborate rituals, who promised healing if we just had enough faith, enough devotion, enough sacrifice. We did everything. We believed everything. Priya died 3 months later. I remember sitting beside her hospital bed, watching her small body struggle for each breath, her skin pale as moonlight, her hand so thin in mine I thought it might shatter. And I remember making a decision in that moment: if there was a God, any God, and he allowed this? I wanted nothing to do with him. Not Vishnu. Not Shiva. Not Brahma. None of them. For the next 17 years, I built a fortress around my heart. Brick by brick. Degree by degree. I pursued medicine with obsessive focus. I learned how the heart works, the sinoatrial node, the electrical impulses, the precise choreography of chambers contracting and relaxing. I learned that life wasn't divine breath, it was biology. Chemistry. Physics. Nothing more. Nothing less. I married Kavita when I was 28. She was a believer, not fanatical, but genuine. She attended temple, kept a small altar in our bedroom with images of Lakshmi and Ganesh. She tried to get me to join her. I refused. I deal in evidence, I told her. Show me God under a microscope, and I'll believe. She stopped asking after a while. The distance between us grew. Not dramatic, just a slow, quiet erosion. Like a river carving through stone. We slept in the same bed, but we lived in different worlds. I had one friend who was different. His name was Thomas, a Christian from Kerala, a nurse at the hospital. He was always calm, always kind, even when doctors berated him, even when patients screamed in pain. He carried a small black book in his pocket. A Bible. I mocked him for it once. Thomas, I said, laughing in the break room, you really think that book has answers? It's ancient mythology. Fairy tales. He smiled, not offended, just sad. Dr. Rajesh, one day you'll see. Jesus is real. And he loves you more than you can imagine. I rolled my eyes. If Jesus loves me, he has a strange way of showing it. Thomas handed me that Bible. A small Malayalam translation with an English parallel text. Just read it, he said. Even if you don't believe. Just read. I took it. Not because I wanted to. But because Thomas was my friend, and I didn't want to hurt him. I shoved it in my locker and forgot about it. That was 6 months before I died. March 15, 2024. 2:47 p.m. I was in the catheterization lab, performing an emergency angioplasty on a 52-year-old man named Mr. Sharma. Acute myocardial infarction, a widowmaker heart attack. His left anterior descending artery was completely blocked. I had done this procedure hundreds of times. Thread the catheter through the femoral artery. Navigate it to the heart. Deploy the stent. Restore blood flow. Save the life. I was focused, calm, in complete control. The monitors beeped steadily. The fluoroscopy screen glowed green. My team moved around me with practiced efficiency. And then I felt it. A tightness in my chest. Sharp. Crushing. Like an iron fist squeezing my heart. I ignored it. Stress, I thought. I'd been working 16-hour shifts for 3 weeks straight. Just stress. But the pain intensified. Radiating down my left arm. Up into my jaw. Cold sweat breaking across my forehead. Dr. Rajesh, my assistant, Dr. Mira, looked at me with concern. "Sir, are you all right?" I opened my mouth to answer. And the world exploded. Pain, white-hot, apocalyptic pain, detonated in my chest. My knees buckled. The catheter slipped from my hands. I heard shouting, alarms blaring, but it sounded distant, underwater, like I was hearing it through layers of cotton. I collapsed. The last thing I saw before the darkness swallowed me was the ceiling, white tiles, fluorescent lights, a small brown water stain shaped like the map of India. And then, nothing. But nothing didn't last long. Because suddenly, I was awake. Aware. Conscious. But I wasn't in my body anymore. I was floating. Hovering. 6 feet above the operating table. And I was looking down at myself. At my body. Lying on the floor of the cath lab. My surgical mask askew. My eyes rolled back. My skin gray. Dr. Mira was shouting, "Code blue! Code blue! Get the crash cart!" I watched, detached, calm, confused, as they ripped open my scrubs. As they placed defibrillator paddles on my chest. Charging to 200. Clear. My body convulsed. Arched off the floor. Fell back. The monitor showed a flat green line. No heartbeat. No rhythm. Nothing. I should have been terrified. I should have been screaming, fighting, clawing my way back into my body. But I wasn't. I felt peaceful. Weightless. Free. I could see everything. Not just the operating room, but everything. 360-degree vision. I saw the clock on the wall, 2:51 p.m. I saw Dr. Kumar running down the hallway with the crash cart. I saw Nurse Anita in the corner, crying, whispering a prayer in Tamil. I saw the coffee stain on the ceiling tile, shaped like India, that I'd noticed 1,000 times before. And I saw something else. In the far corner of the room, near the lead line door, there was a red fire extinguisher. And on the floor beside it, someone had dropped a pen. A blue ballpoint pen. Lying at a 45-degree angle. Why did I notice that? Why did that detail burn itself into my consciousness? I didn't know then. But I would later. Charging to 300. Clear. Again, my body convulsed. Again, the flat line continued. Dr. Mira was injecting something into my chest. Epinephrine. I watched the needle pierce my sternum. I should have felt it. But I felt nothing. "Dr. Rajesh, come back." Dr. Mira's voice cracked. "Don't you dare die on me. Not here. Not like this." But I was already gone. I heard a sound. Distant. Rhythmic. Like wind chimes. Or voices. Or music. I couldn't tell. And then I felt it. A pull. Not physical. Not like gravity. But something deeper. Something pulling at the core of my being. Drawing me away from the operating room. Away from my body. Away from the world I knew. I looked down one last time. At my body. At my colleagues desperately trying to bring me back. At the life I had lived. The life of a man who trusted only in science. Who rejected every god. Who built his identity on intellect and control. And I realized, in that moment, with absolute crystal clarity. I was dead. Clinically. Medically. Completely dead. My heart had stopped at 2:49 p.m. The monitor confirmed it. Asystole. Flatline. Gone. But the real me, the consciousness, the soul I had spent 17 years denying existed, was still here. Still aware. Still alive. And then the pull became irresistible. Like a riptide. Like a black hole. I couldn't fight it. I couldn't resist. I was moving fast away from the operating room, away from the hospital, away from everything. Towards something I couldn't see. Towards something I couldn't name. Toward eternity. And then I saw it. The tunnel. Not metaphorical. Not imagined. Real. A swirling vortex of darkness and light, vast and infinite, opening before me like the throat of the universe. And I knew, with every fiber of my being, that my life on earth was over. But my journey? My journey had just begun. The pull was gentle at first, like being called by a voice you can't quite hear, like following a scent you can't quite name. But within seconds, it intensified. It became a force. A command. An inevitability. I was moving away from my body, but I wasn't moving through space the way I understood it. I was moving through something else. Some other dimension where the rules of physics I'd spent my life mastering meant nothing. But before the tunnel fully consumed me, something made me pause. Some part of me, the doctor part, the logical part, the part that needed to understand, wanted to see what was happening to my body. Wanted to witness my own death from the outside. So I stayed. Hovering. Watching. Dr. Mira was on her third round of chest compressions. I could see the strain in her arms, the sweat on her forehead beneath her surgical cap. She was counting aloud, 1, 2, 3, 4, her voice was steady, but I could hear the tremor beneath it. The fear. Dr. Kumar had arrived with the crash cart. He was preparing another dose of epinephrine. His hands were shaking. I'd never seen Kumar's hands shake. Not once in the 7 years we'd worked together. How long has he been down? Kumar asked. For minutes, Mira replied, not stopping compressions. No pulse. No respiratory effort. Pupils fixed and dilated. 4 minutes. 4 minutes without oxygen to my brain. I knew what that meant. I'd explained it to grieving families 100 times. After 4 minutes of cardiac arrest, brain damage begins. After 10 minutes, the damage is usually irreversible. But I wasn't in my brain anymore. I was somewhere else. And my thinking was clearer than it had ever been. Sharper. More vivid. More real than consciousness had ever felt inside my skull. Charging to 360. Everyone clear. They shocked me again. My body, strange to think of it as separate from me now, jerked violently. My arm flopped off the side of the table. My head lolled to the left. Still nothing. The monitor continued its monotone scream. That single flatline. The sound of death. I looked around the room, and that's when I started noticing things I shouldn't have been able to notice. Nurse Anita was standing in the corner, her hands clasped together, her lips moving silently. She was praying. I floated closer effortlessly, just by thinking about it, and I could hear her, even though she was whispering. Yesu Christu, Karuna Undaku. Lord Jesus, have mercy. Please, God, don't let him die. Please. Jesus. She was praying to Jesus. I'd never known Anita was a Christian. In 3 years of working together, it had never come up. I moved toward the door, not walking, just existing there, as if distance was a suggestion rather than a rule. Through the small window in the door, I could see the hallway. 2 medical students were standing there, frozen, watching. One of them, a young woman named Priya, same name as my dead sister, had her hand over her mouth. The other, a boy named Arun, was pale as chalk. That's Dr. Rajesh, Priya whispered. Oh my God, that's Dr. Rajesh. Further down the hall, I saw something else. The waiting room. Mr. Sharma's family was still there, his wife, his daughter, his elderly mother. They had no idea their doctor was dying while trying to save their husband, their father, their son. And even further, I could somehow see through walls now, perception extending in ways that made no logical sense. I saw my office on the 3rd floor, 2 buildings away. And there, on my desk, was my mobile phone. The screen was lit. Kavita was calling. My wife was calling. How did I know that? How could I possibly know that? But I did. I knew it with absolute certainty. The same way I knew my heart had stopped at 2:49 p.m. The same way I knew there were exactly 17 ceiling tiles in the operating room. The same way I knew that blue pen on the floor by the fire extinguisher was a Reynolds brand, and it had been dropped by the janitor, Mr. Patel, exactly 47 minutes earlier. Information was just available. Like I'd been given access to a database I never knew existed. Dr. Mira, Kumar's voice cut through my observations. It's been 7 minutes. We need to consider. No. Mira's voice was sharp. Fierce. We're not calling it. Not yet. He's 34 years old. We're not giving up. 7 minutes. 7 minutes without a heartbeat. 7 minutes of my colleagues pumping chemicals into a body that wasn't responding. 7 minutes of my brain cells dying by the thousands. Except my brain wasn't dying. Not really. Because I was still here. Still thinking. Still observing. Still more conscious than I'd ever been in my life. Atropine, 1 milligram, Kumar ordered. They injected it. Nothing changed. Amiodarone, 300 milligrams. Another injection. Another flatline. I watched Dr. Mira's face. She was crying now, tears streaming down her cheeks, but she didn't stop compressions. Didn't stop fighting for me. And I felt something I'd never felt for Mira before. Gratitude. Deep, overwhelming gratitude. She was trying to save my life. This woman I'd barked orders at, this woman I'd criticized when she was too slow with instruments, this woman I treated as just another member of my team, she was crying for me. I wanted to tell her, it's okay. I'm right here. I'm fine. I'm not in pain. But I couldn't. I had no voice. No body. No way to bridge the gap between wherever I was and where they were. That's when I heard the other sound. Behind me. Not from the operating room. From somewhere else. Somewhere, beyond. It was like music. But not music I'd ever heard before. Not Tamil film songs or Carnatic classical or Western pop. This was different. This was music that felt alive. Music that had texture and weight and substance. And beneath the music, there were voices. Calling. Not words. Not exactly. But something deeper than words. Like a frequency my soul recognized even though my mind didn't. The pull intensified. Urgent now. Insistent. I looked back at my body one more time. Time of death, Kumar began, his voice heavy. No. Mira shouted. One more round. Please. Just one more. She positioned her hands over my sternum again. Started compressions again. And I realized something that made my non-existent stomach drop. I had a choice. I could resist this pull. I could fight to stay here. I could somehow will myself back into that broken body, that stopped heart, that dying brain. Or I could let go. I could surrender to whatever was pulling me. To that tunnel. To that music. To those voices. To the light that was growing brighter now, expanding, filling my entire field of vision. For 17 years, I had been in control. I controlled my emotions. I controlled my beliefs. I controlled my life with logic and science and medicine. But I couldn't control this. And in that moment, 9 minutes after my heart stopped, 9 minutes of my colleagues fighting for a life that was already slipping away, I made a decision. I let go. The operating room vanished. The hospital vanished. Chennai, India, the entire physical world gone. Dissolved. Like it had never been more than a dream. And the tunnel rushed toward me. Or I rushed toward it. I couldn't tell the difference anymore. It was massive. Impossibly vast. Walls of swirling light and shadow, spinning, pulling, drawing me forward at a speed that should have been terrifying but somehow felt natural. Like I was finally moving in the direction I'd always been meant to move. Colors I'd never seen before pulsed through the tunnel walls. Not brighter versions of earthly colors, completely new colors. Colors that don't exist in the visible spectrum. Colors my earthly eyes could never have processed, but my soul eyes saw perfectly. And I wasn't alone. There were others in the tunnel. Shapes. Forms. Moving alongside me or passing by me. Some heading in the same direction I was. Others moving the opposite way, back toward the world, back toward life. Were they souls? Angels? Demons? I didn't know. I couldn't see them clearly. They were more like impressions. Presences. Witnesses to my journey. The music was louder now. Not overwhelming, just everywhere. Like the tunnel itself was singing. Like existence itself had a soundtrack and I was finally hearing it. And then I felt something else. Memories. Flooding back. Not chronologically. Not organized. Just erupting. Exploding. Demanding to be seen. I saw myself at 7 years old, stealing money from my mother's purse to buy candy. Such a small thing. But I felt the weight of it now. The betrayal. The lie. I saw myself at 16, mocking a classmate for believing in God. His name was Samuel. A Christian boy. Quiet. Kind. And I'd humiliated him in front of the entire class. If your God is so powerful, I'd sneered, why doesn't he strike me down right now? The class had laughed. Samuel had looked down, silent, tears in his eyes. I saw myself in medical school, cheating on an exam. Just once. Just one exam. But it had gotten me a higher score than the girl who studied honestly, and she'd lost a scholarship because of it. I saw myself on my wedding night with Kavita, making promises I never intended to keep. Promises about loving her, honoring her, building a life with her. But I'd only ever built a life for myself. I saw myself holding Thomas's Bible, that gift from my friend, and shoving it into my locker with contempt. Fairy tales, I'd muttered. Every moment. Every choice. Every word I'd spoken and every word I'd withheld. Every act of pride, every moment of cruelty, every time I'd chosen myself over someone else. And the weight of it was crushing. I wasn't being judged by some external force. Not yet. But I was judging myself. And I was found wanting. I'm not ready, I thought. Or said. Or screamed. I didn't know anymore. I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready to face whatever's at the end of this tunnel. But the tunnel didn't care about my readiness. It just kept pulling. Faster now. The light at the end, brilliant, blazing, impossible to look at but impossible to look away from, was growing larger. And I knew, with absolutely certainty, that once I reached that light, there would be no coming back. No second chances. No do-overs. Just eternity. Whatever eternity meant. Whatever eternity held. And then the tunnel opened. The light exploded around me, through me white and gold and alive. And what I saw, what I felt, what I experienced in that moment, shattered everything I thought I knew about reality. About God. About myself. About what happens when we die. The light didn't just surround me, it consumed me. It was like being swallowed by the sun, except there was no burning, no pain, only an intensity so overwhelming that every cell of my being, if I still had cells, if I still had a being in any physical sense, vibrated with it. I was moving faster now. Not flying. Not falling. Something else entirely. Like the fabric of reality itself was rushing past me, like I was being pulled through the very membrane that separated life from death, time from eternity, earth from whatever came next. The tunnel walls were no longer just swirling light and shadow. They were becoming transparent. And through them, I could see things. Scenes. Moments. Lives. Were they my memories? Or was I seeing something larger? Something cosmic? I saw Earth. Spinning in space. Beautiful and fragile and so small. I could see all of it at once, India and America and Africa and Australia, all of it simultaneously visible, like I was viewing it from some impossible vantage point outside of space and time. And then I saw deeper. I saw Chennai. My city. My hospital. The operating room where my body still lay. Dr. Mira was still doing compressions. Still fighting. The clock on the wall read 2:58 p.m. 9 minutes since my heart stopped. But I also saw my home. Simultaneously. Kavita was in our bedroom, kneeling before the small altar, tears streaming down her face, incense smoke curling upward. She was praying to Lakshmi, to Ganesh, to any god who would listen. Please, she was whispering. Please don't take him from me. I know he doesn't believe. But I believe enough for both of us. Please. My heart, my soul heart, the one that still somehow felt emotion even though my physical heart lay silent in my chest, broke. She loved me. Despite the distance between us. Despite my contempt for her faith. Despite 17 years of me building walls and shutting her out. She loved me. And I had never told her I loved her back. Not once. Not in 6 years of marriage. I'm sorry, I tried to say. But I had no mouth. No voice. Just consciousness witnessing its own failure, its own cruelty, its own waste of something precious. The scene shifted. I saw my parents' home in Madurai. My mother was cooking in the kitchen. My father was reading the newspaper. They didn't know yet. They didn't know their son was dead. They would get the call in 20 minutes. And it would destroy them. I saw them at Priya's funeral 17 years ago. My mother collapsed, wailing. My father stood silent, stone-faced, but I could see his hands trembling. I'd been so angry at God, at all gods, for taking her. But I'd never once considered what my parents felt. What they lost. I'd made my sister's death about me. About my disillusionment. About my rejection of faith. I'd never comforted them. Never grieved with them. I just left. Emotionally. Spiritually. I'd abandoned them when they needed me most. I'm sorry, I cried out again into the void. I'm so sorry. But sorry wasn't enough. Sorry couldn't undo 17 years of hardness. 17 years of pride. 17 years of living as if I was the center of the universe and everyone else was just peripheral. The tunnel shifted again. The walls began pulsing with a different light now. Not white and gold. Darker. Heavier. And I felt something I hadn't felt since entering the tunnel. Fear. Cold, primal, ancient fear. The music changed. It was still there, but beneath it now was something else. A dissonance. A sound like grinding metal. Like whispers in a language I didn't understand but instinctively recoiled from. Shadows moved along the tunnel walls. Not random shadows. Intentional ones. With shape. With purpose. With intelligence. They were watching me. I could feel their gaze like ice water down my spine. Could feel their hunger. Their anticipation. No, I thought. No, no, no. This isn't right. This isn't what's supposed to happen. But what had I expected? Heaven? Streets of gold? Angels welcoming me with open arms? I'd spent 34 years rejecting God, mocking faith, living for myself, building my life on the foundation of my own intellect, my own achievements, my own self-sufficiency. Why would heaven want someone like me? Why would any God want someone who'd spent his entire adult life denying their existence? The tunnel narrowed. The light dimmed. The shadows grew thicker, closer, more defined. And then I saw them clearly. Faces. Twisted. Distorted. Human once, maybe, but corrupted into something else. Something wrong. Their eyes were hollow. Empty. But not empty like nothing was there, empty like something had been taken. Scooped out. Devoured. They reached toward me with elongated fingers. Not trying to grab me. Not yet. Just beckoning. Inviting. Welcoming me to wherever they were. Wherever they existed. One of us, they seemed to whisper, though I heard no actual words. One of us. You belong here. You know you do. You rejected him. You chose this. You chose US. No. I screamed, not with my voice, but with every fiber of my being, with the full force of my consciousness. I don't want this. I don't want any of this. Then what do you want? The question came from everywhere and nowhere. Not from the shadows. From something else. Someone else. And suddenly, the entire tunnel stopped. I stopped moving. The light stopped swirling. The shadows froze in place. Everything became perfectly, impossibly still. And in that stillness, I heard it again. That question. Gentle now. Patient. But demanding an answer nonetheless. What do you want, Rajesh? No one had called me by my name since I'd died. Not Dr. Mira. Not the shadows. Not even my own internal monologue. But this voice, this presence, knew my name. Knew me. I began, and then stopped. What did I want? I wanted to live. I wanted another chance. I wanted to go back to my body, to my life, to my wife, to my career. I wanted to undo the last 9 minutes. I wanted my heart to start beating again. But even as I thought those things, I knew they weren't true. Not completely. Because if I was being honest, truly, devastatingly honest, I didn't just want to go back to my old life. My old life had been empty. Hollow. I'd been so focused on proving I didn't need God that I'd built a life with no meaning beyond my own ego. I tried again, and this time, something broke open inside me. Some dam I'd built 17 years ago when Priya died. Some wall I'd mortared with intellectual pride and cemented with grief and rage. I want to know if you're real. Silence. I want to know if there's more than this. More than just biology and chemistry and random chance. I want to know if my sister still exists somewhere. If she's okay. If she's happy. If her life meant something beyond 12 years of suffering and then oblivion. The tears came then. Not physical tears, I had no eyes to cry from. But something deeper. Soul tears. The kind that can't be hidden or suppressed or explained away with logic. I want to know if I'm more than just a collection of neurons and electrical impulses. If there's a reason I existed. If my life mattered. If it could matter, even though I've wasted so much of it. The question came again, softer now. And what if the answer is yes? What if I told you that you are more than biology? That your sister does exist, beyond death? That your life not only matters but was designed with purpose? What if I told you all of that is true, but it requires something from you? What? I asked, desperate now, pleading. What does it require? Surrender. The word hit me like a physical blow. Surrender. The one thing I'd never done. The one thing I'd sworn, at 17 years old beside Priya's deathbed, I would never do. Surrender meant admitting I wasn't in control. Surrender meant acknowledging there was something, someone greater than me. Surrender meant stepping off the throne of my own life and bowing before a throne I couldn't see, couldn't measure, couldn't dissect in a laboratory. Surrender meant faith. I don't know how, I whispered into the stillness. I don't know how to surrender. I don't know how to have faith. I've spent 17 years building walls specifically to prevent this. I don't know how to tear them down. You don't have to tear them down, the voice replied. You just have to let me in. One door. One crack. One choice. That's all it takes. But I don't even know who you are, I said. I don't know which god I'm supposed to surrender to. Vishnu? Shiva? Allah? Jesus? Buddha? There are so many religions, so many claims, so many. Look. And the tunnel vanished. Everything vanished. The shadows. The light. The walls. The fear. All of it gone. And I found myself standing, actually standing, with a body again, or something like a body, in a place I'd never seen before. A place I'd never imagined. A place that was simultaneously the most beautiful and most terrifying thing I'd ever witnessed. The ground beneath my feet was solid but glowing. Like standing on crystallized light. The sky, if it was a sky, was impossible to describe. Colors beyond description. Dimensions beyond 3. Like looking at reality from an angle that shouldn't exist. And in the distance, impossibly far and yet somehow intimately close, I saw something that made me fall to my knees. A city. Walls of jasper. Gates of pearl. Streets of gold so pure they were transparent. Towers and buildings and architecture that made Earth's greatest monuments look like children's toys. And above it all, emanating from the center, from some point I couldn't quite see but could feel in every atom of my being. Light. Not sunlight. Not electric light. Not any light I'd ever experienced. Living light. Conscious light. Light that held love the way water holds wetness, light that was simultaneously the source and the substance of everything good, everything pure, everything true. And I knew without being told, without needing proof or evidence or peer-reviewed studies, I knew where I was. Or rather, I knew what I was looking at from a vast, impossible distance. Heaven. It was real. Heaven was real. And I was standing at the edge of it, looking in, like a beggar outside a palace, like a dying man watching a feast through a window. Do you see? The voice asked, and now I could tell it was coming from the direction of the city, from the direction of that light. Do you understand? Yes, I breathed, tears streaming down my face, real tears now, from real eyes, in this strange in-between body I somehow inhabited. I see. I understand. It's real. God is real. Heaven is real. All of it is real. And do you want it? The voice asked. Do you want to come home, Rajesh? Do you want to enter through those gates? Do you want to experience the love that built this place, the love that has been calling you your entire life, the love that even now is giving you this choice? Yes, I sobbed. Yes, I want it. I want all of it. But I can't. I don't deserve it. You know what I've done. You know what I've believed. You know. I know everything, the voice interrupted. Gentle. Patient. But with an authority that shook the ground beneath my feet. I know every thought you've ever had. Every word you've spoken. Every sin you've committed. Every person you've hurt. Every moment you chose yourself over others. Every time you rejected me. The weight of those words should have crushed me. Should have driven me into the ground with shame and guilt and despair. But instead, the voice continued. And I died for all of it. The world stopped. I died for all of it, Rajesh. For every sin. For every failure. For every moment of pride and anger and bitterness. I took it. I bore it. I paid the price. Not because you deserved it, you don't, and you never will. But because I love you. And love doesn't wait for worthiness. Love creates worthiness. Who? I managed to whisper, though I already knew. Somewhere deep inside, I'd always known. Who are you? And then he stepped out of the light. And I saw him. And everything I'd ever believed, ever known, ever built my identity upon, shattered like glass. Because standing before me, looking at me with eyes that held galaxies and eternity and unimaginable sorrow and infinite joy all at once, was Jesus. He wasn't what I expected. Not even close. Every image I'd ever seen of Jesus, and I'd seen plenty, living in India where Christianity existed alongside Hinduism, showed a pale European man with flowing blonde hair, blue eyes, and soft features. A gentle shepherd. A meek teacher. Someone you could dismiss as weak, as outdated, as irrelevant to the modern world. The man standing before me was none of those things. He was Middle Eastern. Unmistakably. Skin the color of burnished bronze, weathered by sun and wind and suffering. His hair was dark, thick, curling slightly at his shoulders. His beard was full and dark. His hands, calloused, strong, the hands of a carpenter, were extended toward me. And his eyes. Oh God, his eyes. They were brown. Deep, rich brown. But that description is like calling the ocean wet, technically accurate but completely insufficient. His eyes held depth. Dimension. When he looked at me, and he was looking at me, directly at me, into me, I felt like I was falling into an infinite space. Like his gaze could penetrate every layer of my being, every mask I'd ever worn, every lie I'd ever told myself. But it wasn't violating. It wasn't invasive. It was knowing. He knew me. Completely. Totally. Every version of me that had ever existed, the child who loved his sister, the teenager who watched her die, the angry young man who rejected God, the doctor who built his life on pride, the husband who failed to love his wife, the friend who mocked Thomas's faith. He saw all of it. All of me. And he didn't look away. Rajesh, he said, and his voice. It was like thunder and whisper simultaneously. Deep and gentle. Powerful and tender. When he spoke my name, it resonated in my chest, in my soul, in places I didn't know could resonate. It was the first time I truly heard my name. Like every other time someone had called me Rajesh, they'd been mispronouncing it, getting it slightly wrong. But he said it the way it was meant to be said. The way God had said it when he knit me together in my mother's womb. I fell to my knees. Not because I decided to. Not because I thought it was the appropriate response. But because my legs simply gave out. Because standing in his presence felt impossible, presumptuous, wrong. I was looking at his feet now. And that's when I saw them. The scars. Holes. Clean through. Entry wounds and exit wounds. Where nails had been driven through flesh and bone, pinning him to a cross. They weren't healed over. Weren't sealed up with scar tissue. They were still, open. Present. Visible. He had chosen to keep them. Why? I whispered, unable to look up, unable to process what I was seeing. Why would you keep those? You're God. You could heal them. You could erase them like they never happened. I keep them, Jesus said, kneeling down, the King of the universe kneeling before me, so that you would know. So that every soul who stands before me would know. This is what your sin cost. This is what love required. These scars are my answer to every person who asks, does God love me? These scars scream yes. He took my hands in his. His palms were warm. Solid. Real. And I felt the holes. The wounds. My fingers touched the places where nails had pierced him. And in that moment, I understood. This wasn't mythology. This wasn't metaphor. This wasn't some abstract theological concept that religious people debated in air-conditioned churches. This was real. Jesus of Nazareth had actually lived. Had actually died. Had actually been tortured and executed in the most brutal way the Roman Empire could devise. For me. For me. For Rajesh Kumar, cardiologist from Chennai, who had spent 17 years spitting on his name, mocking his followers, denying his existence. The weight of it crashed over me like a tsunami. "I'm sorry," I sobbed, and the words felt pathetically inadequate. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I didn't understand. I thought you were just a fairy tale. Just another religious figure people invented to cope with death. I never imagined." "I know," Jesus said softly. "I know what you thought. I know why you thought it. I was there, Rajesh. I was there the day Priya died. I was in that hospital room with you." My head snapped up. "What?" His eyes were filled with tears now. Actual tears. God was crying. For me. For my sister. For the pain we'd endured. "I was there," he repeated. "I wept with you. I felt your anger, your confusion, your grief. And when you made that decision, when you decided that if I existed, you wanted nothing to do with me, it broke my heart. Not because I was offended. Not because my ego was wounded. But because I knew. I knew the wall you were building would keep you from the very love that could heal you. But why?" I demanded, and anger flared in me, righteous anger, the kind I'd carried for 17 years. "Why did you let her die? Why did you take her? She was 12. She was innocent. She never hurt anyone. She loved you. She believed in you. And you just let her suffer and die while we watched. How is that love?" I expected him to rebuke me. To tell me I had no right to question God. To put me in my place with divine authority. Instead, he pulled me close. Into an embrace. And I felt his heart breaking. "Rajesh," he whispered into my ear, "Priya isn't dead. Death has no power here. Death is just a door. And she walked through it, into my arms. She's here. She's home. She's more alive now than she ever was on earth." I pulled back, staring at him. "She's here? Priya is here?" He nodded, smiling through his tears. "Would you like to see her?" Before I could answer, before I could process what he was asking, he stood and turned toward the city. The city of light. The city I'd seen from a distance. Heaven. And we began walking toward it. I was walking beside Jesus. Actually walking beside the Son of God. On a pathway that seemed to materialize beneath our feet with each step, a path of light and crystal that led toward those massive gates. As we walked, I looked around, really looked at where I was. The sky wasn't blue. It wasn't any color I could name. It shifted and shimmered, like looking at the surface of a soap bubble, except instead of fragile and temporary, it felt eternal and solid. Colors beyond the visible spectrum danced across it, colors my earthly eyes could never have processed, colors that shouldn't exist according to physics, but my soul eyes saw them perfectly. The air, if it was air, didn't just fill my lungs. It filled my spirit. Each breath was like inhaling pure joy, pure peace, pure life. It tasted sweet, like honey and flowers and something else, something I'd never experienced on earth. It was the taste of home. The ground beneath our feet wasn't dirt or stone. It was grass. But not ordinary grass. Each blade was perfect, luminescent, and they were singing. I stopped walking, stunned. The grass is singing? Jesus smiled. All of creation worships, Rajesh. On earth, creation groans under the weight of sin, waiting for redemption. But here? Here, creation is free. Free to do what it was always meant to do, praise its creator. I knelt down, touching the grass. And I felt it. Not just texture. I felt joy emanating from it. Each blade was happy. Fulfilled. Living its perfect purpose. Even the grass in heaven was more alive than I'd been on earth. We continued walking, and the city grew closer. And larger. Impossibly larger. The walls were jasper, not the green jasper I'd seen in jewelry stores, but a clear jasper that somehow held light within its structure. The walls were miles high, but I could see through them, could see the glory inside. The gates were pearl. Not decorated with pearl. Not inlaid with pearl. Each gate was a single pearl, massive beyond comprehension. I knew, somehow, that each pearl represented suffering transformed into beauty. Irritation and pain compressed and refined until it became something glorious. Like salvation itself. As we approached the nearest gate, I saw someone standing there. Someone waiting. A young woman. Maybe 20 years old. Beautiful. Radiant. Her skin glowed with an inner light. Her eyes, dark brown, familiar, sparkled with joy. She was wearing a white robe that seemed to be woven from light itself. Her hair was long, black, flowing down her back. And she was smiling. At me. Rajesh, she called out, her voice like music. Anna. Big brother. My breath caught. It couldn't be. It was impossible. Priya? I whispered. She ran toward me. No, she didn't run, she flew. She moved with a grace and speed that defied physics and threw her arms around me. Anna. I've been waiting for you. I've been praying for you. Every single day since I arrived, I've been asking Jesus to bring you home. I held her, this sister I'd lost, this child who'd died at 12, except she wasn't a child anymore. She was grown. Perfected. Radiant. But you died. You were 12. How are you? We don't age here, Anna, she laughed, and the sound was pure joy. Not like on earth. We become what we were always meant to be. The fullness of who God created us to be. No sickness. No pain. No limitations. I pulled back, looking at her face. Looking for any trace of the suffering she'd endured. The chemotherapy that had ravaged her body. The pain that had twisted her features in those final days. Nothing. All of it gone. Erased. Replaced with perfection. You're okay? I asked, and tears streamed down my face. You're really okay? Okay? She laughed again. Anna, I'm more than okay. I'm home. I'm with Jesus. I'm surrounded by love every single moment. I have no fear, no doubt, no pain. I spend my days worshiping, exploring, learning, growing. I've met people from every era of history. I've seen wonders you can't imagine. I've been held by the very God who created the universe. I'm not just okay, I'm alive in a way I never was on earth. The guilt I'd carried for 17 years began to crack. But I blamed God for taking you. I rejected him because he let you die. I spent almost 2 decades angry at him because you loved me, Priya said gently, placing her hand on my cheek. And that's why Jesus brought you here. He wanted you to see. He wanted you to understand. Death isn't the end, Anna. It's the beginning. You didn't lose me. I just went ahead. I've been waiting here, praying you'd follow. I looked at Jesus, who had been standing quietly, watching our reunion with a smile that lit up heaven itself. But I don't deserve this, I said, my voice breaking. I rejected you. I mocked your followers. I lived my entire adult life as if you didn't exist. Why would you show me this? Why would you give me this gift? Jesus stepped closer, his hand resting on my shoulder. Because I love you, Rajesh. Not because of what you've done or haven't done. Not because you earned it or deserved it. But because you are mine. I created you. I formed you. I wove you together in your mother's womb. I was there for every moment of your life, the joyful ones and the painful ones. And I have always loved you. Even when you didn't believe in me, I believed in you. Even when you rejected me, I never rejected you. But what about everything I've done wrong? All the people I've hurt? All the years I wasted? Jesus' expression became more serious. Not angry. Not condemning. But truthful. There is something you need to see, Rajesh. Before you can fully understand where you are and what I'm offering you, you need to see what your life looks like from my perspective. You need to understand the weight of sin. The consequences of living for yourself instead of for me. A chill ran down my spine. What do you mean? He turned, gesturing behind us. Back toward the path we'd walked. Back toward. I turned and gasped. The beautiful landscape, the singing grass, the impossible sky, all of it was still there. But beyond it, in the distance, I could see something else now. Something I hadn't noticed before because I'd been focused on the city of light. Darkness. A vast, yawning darkness. Like a hole in reality. Like a wound in the fabric of existence. And from that darkness, I heard sounds. Screams. Wailing. The sound of suffering that never ends, regret that never heals, isolation that never breaks. What I asked that? I asked, though I already knew. I knew in my bones, in my soul, in the deepest part of my being. That, Jesus said quietly, is the alternative. That is what happens when people reject me, not just intellectually, not just in words, but in their hearts, in their choices, in their final moment. That is the place for those who, when shown truth, still choose themselves. Still choose pride. Still choose to be their own God. Hell, I whispered. He nodded. Hell. And Rajesh, if you had died 1 hour earlier, 1 day earlier, 1 moment earlier than you did, if your heart had stopped before I reached you, before I gave you this chance to see, to understand, that's where you would have gone. Not because I wanted it. But because it's the only place left for those who reject heaven. For those who reject me. The weight of those words crushed me. I had been 1 moment away from eternal damnation. 1 heartbeat away from that darkness. 1 breath away from those screams. I need you to see, Jesus said. I need you to understand. Because you're not staying here. Not yet. I'm sending you back. And when you go back, you need to be able to tell them. You need to be able to warn them. You need to be able to say, with absolute certainty, heaven is real. Hell is real. And the choice you make about me, about Jesus, determines which one you experience. You're sending me back? I asked, torn between relief and desperate longing. But I want to stay. I want to stay here, with Priya, with you. Your time here will come, Jesus said. But not today. Today, you have a mission. You have people who need to hear what you've seen. You have a wife who's been praying for you. You have a friend named Thomas who's been sowing seeds for years, waiting for harvest. You have patients who need to hear that the doctor who saved their hearts met the God who saved his soul. He paused, his eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made me want to look away but couldn't. But before I send you back, you need to see the truth. All of it. The good and the bad. The beauty and the horror. You need to see your life the way I see it. What do you mean? Jesus extended his hand. Come. Let me show you. And the city of heaven, the grass, the sky, Priya, all of it faded. And we stood in a different place entirely. A place where time didn't exist linearly but all at once. A place where every moment of my life was laid bare. Every choice. Every word. Every thought. Every consequence. This, Jesus said, his voice echoing in the vastness, is your life review. This is where you see what I've always seen. Where you understand what your choices have meant, not just for you, but for everyone you've touched. And then the scenes began to play. And I watched. And I understood. And I wept. The space we stood in wasn't a room. It wasn't a theater. It wasn't anything I could compare to earthly architecture. It was simply a place of truth. No shadows. No hiding. No filters. Just Jesus and me, and every moment of my 34 years laid out before us like pages in a book that was simultaneously being read and lived. I'm going to show you your life, Rajesh, Jesus said, his voice gentle but firm. Not to condemn you. Not to shame you. But so you can understand. So you can see what I see. So you can comprehend the weight of every choice, every word, every action, and the ripples they created in the lives of others. Before I could respond, the first scene materialized around us. I was 16 years old. Standing in my school hallway. It was lunch period, and students were rushing past, laughing, shouting, living their teenage lives. A girl approached me. Mira. Not Dr. Mira from the hospital, a different Mira. A quiet girl from my class who always sat in the back row. Rajesh, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Could I eat lunch with you today? Just today. I don't have anyone to sit with. 16-year-old me looked at her. Looked at her worn school uniform, her nervous eyes, her hands clutching her lunch bag. And I laughed. I don't think so, I said, loud enough for nearby students to hear. I have standards. The other students laughed. Mira's face crumbled. She turned and walked away quickly, her shoulders hunched. I'd forgotten this moment. Completely forgotten it. But Jesus hadn't. Watch, he said softly. The scene continued, but now I was following Mira. I watched her go to the bathroom. Watched her lock herself in a stall. Watched her slide down the wall and cry deep, gasping sobs that shook her small frame. Nobody wants me, she whispered to herself between sobs. Not even the smart kids. Not even people who are supposed to be nice. Nobody wants me. Maybe not even God. She pulled out a diary from her bag. Her hands were shaking. She wrote. Today Rajesh said no. Just like everyone else says no. I asked God last night to send me a friend. Just one friend. But he didn't. Or maybe he did, and even the friend he sent doesn't want me. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know why I'm so broken. Maybe I shouldn't be here. I watched her close the diary. Watched her sit there for 20 minutes, missing lunch entirely, just crying in that bathroom stall. The scene froze. She was praying for a friend, Rajesh, Jesus said. And I sent her to you. You were my answer to her prayer. But you said no. You chose cruelty over kindness. You chose your reputation over her dignity. I didn't know, I whispered, my voice cracking. I didn't know she was praying. I didn't know she was. Look at what happened next, Jesus said. The scene fast-forwarded. Years passed in seconds. I saw Mira growing up. Saw her struggling with depression. Saw her attempting suicide at 19. Saw her survive, barely, and spend years in therapy. Saw her, at 26, finally finding healing, finding faith, finding Jesus. Saw her write in another diary. I forgive Rajesh. He was just a kid. He didn't know what he was doing. But I wish he had said yes. I wish he had known that one small kindness could have changed everything. She forgave you, Jesus said. Long before you asked for forgiveness. Long before you even remembered what you'd done. That's grace, Rajesh. That's what I do in people's hearts. I teach them to forgive the unforgivable. The guilt was crushing. Jesus, I'm so sorry. I never thought. I know. That's the problem. You never thought about how your actions affected others. You were living in a universe with yourself at the center. Everyone else was just peripheral. Background characters in your story. He paused, looking at me with those infinite eyes. But there are no background characters, Rajesh. Everyone is the main character of their own story. Everyone matters. Every interaction is sacred. Every word carries weight. The space shifted. I was 23. Medical school. Final year. I watched myself in the examination hall, struggling with a question I hadn't studied for. I watched myself glance to the side, catching a glimpse of another student's paper, a girl named Anjali. I watched myself copy her answer. Just one answer. Just one question worth 10 points. It was just one question, I heard my younger self rationalize. Everyone does it. It doesn't really matter. Watch what it mattered to, Jesus said. The scene shifted to a week later. Results were posted. I had scored 88%. Anjali had scored 87%. The top student received a scholarship. Full tuition for the final semester. 20,000 rupees. I got the scholarship. Anjali didn't. I watched Anjali go to her professor, tears streaming down her face. Sir, I needed this scholarship. My father is sick. We can't afford tuition without it. Is there anything? I'm sorry, the professor said, not unkindly. Rajesh scored 1 point higher. The rules are clear. I watched Anjali leave the office. Watched her call her parents. Watched her tell them she couldn't continue without the scholarship. Watched her drop out of medical school. Watched her take a job as a nursing assistant, good work, honorable work, but not what she'd dreamed of, not what she'd sacrificed for. Watched her, years later, still working in that same position, still wondering what her life would have been like if she'd gotten that scholarship. If I hadn't cheated. No, I moaned, falling to my knees. No, no, no. I stole her dream. I stole her future. For one question. For 10 points. 4. For pride, Jesus finished. For the need to be first. To be best. To prove your worth through achievement instead of character. Can I fix it? I begged, looking up at him. When you send me back, can I find her? Can I give her money? Can I? You can try, Jesus said. And you should. But you can never give her back those years, Rajesh. You can never undo what was done. That's the reality of sin. It has consequences. Permanent consequences. Grace covers sin. Forgiveness heals sin. But consequences? Those remain. That's why I take sin so seriously. That's why I went to the cross. Because sin destroys. It destroys people, relationships, futures, dreams. The scene shifted again. This one I remembered vividly. My wedding night with Kavita. 6 years ago. She was sitting on the edge of the bed in our hotel room, beautiful in her red sari, henna on her hands, nervousness and hope in her eyes. Rajesh, she said softly. I know we didn't have a long courtship. I know this was partially arranged. But I want you to know, I'm going to be a good wife to you. I'm going to love you with everything I have. I'm going to pray for you, support you, build a life with you. I watched my younger self nod, not really listening, distracted by my phone, already mentally planning the next day's schedule at the hospital. I promise, she continued, her voice trembling slightly, to honor you. To respect you. To be faithful to you. To love you the way God designed marriage, selflessly, sacrificially, eternally. Sure, my younger self said, barely looking up. That sounds good. The scene froze. She made you a promise, Jesus said. A sacred vow. And you? You barely acknowledged it. You never made promises back. You never told her you loved her. Not once in 6 years of marriage. Not once, Rajesh. I thought love was understood. I thought. Watch. The scene continued, but now I was seeing through Kavita's eyes. Seeing her perspective. I watched her lie awake at night, wondering if I loved her. Watched her cry in the shower, feeling unwanted, unvalued. Watched her pray hour after hour, day after day, year after year, asking God to soften my heart, to help me see her, to help me love her. I watched her go to her mother, broken and desperate. "Mama, I don't know what to do. He treats me like a roommate. Like a servant. Not like a wife. Not like someone he loves." "Give him time," her mother said. "Men don't express emotion easily. He'll come around." But I never did. I watched 6 years of marriage from her perspective. 6 years of loneliness. 6 years of feeling like she'd married a wall. 6 years of pouring out love and receiving nothing in return. And I watched her, just 3 days before my death, kneeling before her altar, sobbing, "God, I can't do this anymore. I love him. But he doesn't love me. He doesn't even see me. Please, God. Either change his heart or give me the strength to leave. I can't live like this. I can't keep giving everything and receiving nothing." The scene froze on her face. Tears streaming. Broken. Desperate. "She was 3 days away from leaving you," Jesus said quietly. 3 days away from giving up. Did you know that? I couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't process what I was seeing. "I destroyed her," I finally whispered. "I destroyed the woman who loved me. The woman who prayed for me. The woman who gave me everything, and I gave her nothing." "You gave her neglect," Jesus said. "You gave her silence. You gave her a marriage that looked right from the outside but was dead on the inside. Just like your faith, Rajesh. Just like your heart. A beautiful exterior hiding emptiness within." The space shifted to the hospital break room. 6 months before my death. Thomas was there, holding his Bible, smiling at me with that gentle, knowing smile. "Just read it," he was saying, handing me the small black book. "Even if you don't believe. Just read." I watched myself take it. Watched myself shove it in my locker. Watched Thomas leave. And then I watched what I did next. I opened my locker again. Pulled out the Bible. Looked at it with contempt. "Fairy tales," I muttered. And I threw it in the trash. Not gently. Not respectfully. I threw it. Like it was garbage. Like it was worthless. The scene shifted to Thomas, returning to the break room an hour later. Seeing the Bible in the trash. Pulling it out. Brushing off coffee grounds and food scraps. And crying. Quietly. Privately. His shoulders shaking. "Jesus," he prayed, holding the stained Bible to his chest, "I thought you were working in his heart. I thought maybe he was ready. But he's so hard, Lord. His heart is so hard. What do I do? How do I reach him?" I watched Thomas clean the Bible carefully. Watched him place it back in his locker, not mine. Watched him continue to pray for me, day after day, week after week, never giving up, never stopping, even when I mocked him, even when I dismissed him, even when I treated his faith like it was worthless. "Thomas loved you," Jesus said. "Not with human love alone, with my love. I put my love in his heart for you. And you treated it like trash. You treated him like trash." "I didn't know," I sobbed. "I didn't know he cried. I didn't know he prayed. I didn't know." "You didn't care," Jesus interrupted, and for the first time, his voice carried an edge. Not anger. But truth. Sharp, cutting truth. "You didn't care enough to ask. Didn't care enough to consider. Didn't care enough to wonder if your actions hurt people. You were so focused on your pain, your intellect, your righteousness, that you became blind to everyone else." The final scene materialized. And I immediately wanted to run from it. My sister's hospital room. 17 years ago. The day she died. I was 17. She was 12. My parents were there. The doctor had just told us there was nothing more they could do. I watched my 12-year-old sister, small and fragile in that hospital bed, looking at me with eyes that still held hope. "Anna," she whispered. "I'm scared." 17-year-old me stood there, frozen. Silent. Angry. "Anna, will you pray with me?" I watched myself turn away. Watched myself refuse. "I don't pray anymore," my younger self said coldly. "Prayer doesn't work. God doesn't listen. If he did, you wouldn't be dying." I watched my sister's face crumple. Watched my mother gasp. Watched my father's jaw clench. But worse, I watched what I didn't see at the time. I watched Priya, in her final hours, turning to my mother instead. "Amma, will you pray with me?" And my mother did. She prayed. She wept. She held Priya's hand and recited every prayer she knew. But Priya kept looking at me. Wanting me. Her big brother. The one she'd looked up to her entire life. And I stood in the corner, arms crossed, face hard as stone, refusing to participate. I watched Priya die 2 hours later. Watched her final moments. Watched her whisper, "Jesus, I'm ready. Take me home." And I watched Jesus appear, invisible to everyone in the room except Priya. I watched him sit beside her bed. Watched him take her hand. Watched him smile at her with infinite tenderness. "Well done, faithful one," he said to her. "Your suffering is over. Your joy begins now. Come. Come home." And I watched my sister's spirit radiant, whole, healed rise from her body. Watched her look back at me one last time, sadness in her eyes. "I love you, Anna," her spirit whispered, even though I couldn't hear it then. "I forgive you. Please, please don't let anger destroy you. Please find Jesus. Please come home." And then she was gone. Into his arms. Into eternity. The scene froze. I was on the floor now, curled in a ball, sobbing so hard I thought my soul would shatter. She forgave me, I wept. Even after I refused her. Even after I was cruel. Even in her final moments, she forgave me. She prayed for me. "That's what my love does," Jesus said, kneeling beside me. "It transforms hearts. It produces forgiveness where there should be bitterness. Grace where there should be judgment. Love where there should be hate." He placed his hand on my back. And warmth flooded through me. Not physical warmth. Soul warmth. The kind that heals wounds you didn't know you had. "Do you see now?" He asked gently. "Do you understand what your life looked like? The pain you caused? The opportunities you missed? The love you rejected?" "Yes," I whispered. "I see. I understand. And I'm so broken, Jesus. I'm so broken. How can you even look at me? How can you stand to be near me after everything I've done, everything I've failed to do?" He pulled me up. Turned me to face him. And his eyes, those infinite, galaxy-holding eyes, were filled with tears. "Because I don't just see what you were, Rajesh. I see what you can be. I see who I created you to be. I see the man who will go back to earth and tell everyone who will listen about this moment. The man who will love his wife the way I love my bride. The man who will honor Thomas's faithfulness. The man who will apologize to Anjali and Mira and anyone else he's hurt. The man who will become a living testimony that I am real, that heaven is real, that love is real." He cupped my face in his scarred hands. "I died for you, Rajesh. Every sin you just saw? I took it. I bore it. I bled for it. I was tortured for it. I was executed for it. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Because you are worth it. Because every soul is worth it." "But why?" I asked desperately. "Why would you do that? Why would you suffer for someone like me?" He smiled. That smile that lit up heaven itself. "Because I love you. It's that simple and that profound. I love you." He paused, his thumbs wiping away my tears. "And now I'm giving you a choice. You can stay here. Your time isn't ordained to end yet, but if you want, I can bring you home now. You can be with Priya. You can rest. You can worship. You can experience the fullness of heaven for eternity." My heart leaped. That's what I wanted. To stay. To never leave this place. To never return to the broken world, the broken body, the broken life. But Jesus continued. "Or you can go back. Back to your body. Back to earth. Back to Kavita, who's still praying for you. Back to Thomas, who's still believing for you. Back to a world that desperately needs to hear what you've seen. Back to a mission. Back to a purpose. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. If you go back, it won't be easy. You'll face mockery. Rejection. People will call you crazy. They'll say you hallucinated. They'll dismiss your testimony. You'll lose friends, maybe even family. But you'll also save people, Rajesh. You'll snatch souls from the fire. You'll point people to me. You'll give them hope. What do you want me to do? I asked. Tell me. I'll do whatever you say. You're Lord. You decide. Jesus smiled wider. I've always been Lord, Rajesh. But this is the first time you've called me that. The first time you've surrendered. He stood, pulling me to my feet. I'm sending you back. Not because your work on earth is done, but because it's just beginning. You have 53 more years to live. 53 years to love Kavita the way she deserves. 53 years to share this testimony. 53 years to be the man I created you to be. Wait, I started. You're saying I'll live to 87? He laughed. I'm saying you have time. Time to make it right. Time to live for me instead of for yourself. Time to love. He turned me toward the light, the tunnel I'd come through, now beckoning me back. When you wake up, you'll remember everything. Every moment of this. Every word I've said. Every scene you've witnessed. And you'll carry it back with you. It will be your testimony. Your proof. Your mission. Jesus, my voice broke. I don't want to leave you. I don't want to leave this place. He pulled me into one final embrace. And in that embrace, I felt everything. All the love he had for me. All the times he'd protected me when I didn't know it. All the prayers he'd heard and answered in ways I didn't recognize. All the moments he'd wept for me, fought for me, died for me. You're never leaving me, he whispered in my ear. I'm coming with you. I'll be in your heart. I'll be in your spirit. I'll never leave you. Never forsake you. And one day, one glorious day, you'll come back here. And you'll stay. Forever. He released me. Placed his hand on my chest. Tell them, he said, his voice echoing with authority that shook the heavens. Tell them I am. Tell them I'm real. Tell them heaven is real. Hell is real. And I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Not Buddha. Not Muhammad. Not Krishna. Not good works. Not religious rituals. Only me. His hand began to glow. Tell them I'm coming back. Soon. Sooner than they think. Tell them to be ready. Tell them to choose. Because eternity is real. And the choice they make about me determines where they spend it. Light exploded from his hand, entering my chest, filling me with fire and peace and life. Go. He commanded. Go and be my witness. And then. Everything went white. Blinding, brilliant white. And I was moving again faster than before, pulled backward through the tunnel, through the dimensions, through the barrier between heaven and earth. The last thing I saw was Jesus, standing at the gates of heaven, smiling at me, his hand raised in blessing. I love you, Rajesh, his voice echoed through the tunnel. Now go love them. And then. Pain. Searing, crushing, agonizing pain. My lungs gasped. My heart slammed in my chest. I was back. Back in my body. Back on earth. Back, alive. The first sensation was pain. Not the gentle transition I'd expected. Not a peaceful re-entry into consciousness. It was agony. My chest felt like it was being crushed under a mountain. My lungs burned like I'd inhaled fire. Every nerve in my body screamed in protest, like my spirit was being forcibly shoved back into a vessel that was too small, too broken, too wrong after experiencing the infinite freedom of the afterlife. I gasped a violent, rasping inhalation that sounded more animal than human. And I heard the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard on earth. The steady beep of a heart monitor. Beep. 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 My heart was beating. Oh my God, someone gasped. He's back. He's back. I tried to open my eyes, but the fluorescent lights were blinding after the glorious light of heaven. I managed to crack them open slightly, squinting against the brightness. Dr. Mira's face appeared above me, pale and tear-streaked, her eyes wide with disbelief. Dr. Rajesh? Can you hear me? Rajesh, if you can hear me, squeeze my hand. I felt her hand in mine. Warm. Solid. Real. I squeezed. She sobbed a sound of pure relief and joy. He's responsive. Dr. Kumar, he's responsive. More faces appeared above me. Dr. Kumar. Nurse Anita. Two other nurses whose names I knew, Lakshmi and Pradeep. Welcome back, Dr. Kumar said, his voice shaking. You gave us quite a scare there, my friend. I tried to speak, but my throat was raw, my vocal cords uncooperative. All that came out was a croak. Don't try to talk yet, Dr. Mira said, wiping her eyes. You've been through massive trauma. You were dead for, she glanced at the clock, her voice catching, for 17 minutes, Rajesh. 17 minutes. Your heart stopped at 2:49 p.m. We got you back at 3:06 p.m. 17 minutes without a heartbeat. 17 minutes in eternity. 17 minutes in the presence of Jesus. 17 minutes that changed everything. I managed to whisper, my voice barely audible, saw him. The room went quiet. What did you say? Dr. Mira leaned closer. Jesus, I rasped, and speaking his name felt like worship, like power, like truth vibrating through my chest. I saw Jesus. The medical staff exchanged glances. Concerned looks. The looks doctors give when they're worried about brain damage, about oxygen deprivation, about hallucinations caused by dying neurons. But I didn't care what they thought. Because I knew. I knew what I'd seen. I knew who I'd met. I knew where I'd been. We need to run tests, Dr. Kumar said, his tone professional but gentle. After that long without oxygen, we need to check for neurological damage. We need to do a full assessment. The pen, I interrupted, my voice stronger now. Blue pen. By the fire extinguisher. On the floor. Everyone stopped. What? Dr. Mira asked. When I was out of my body, I said slowly, each word deliberate, I saw everything in this room. From above. I saw a blue ballpoint pen on the floor. Next to the fire extinguisher by the door. Reynolds brand. Dropped by Mr. Patel the janitor. 47 minutes before my heart attack. The room was silent. No one moved. That's impossible, Dr. Kumar said quietly. You couldn't have seen that. You were unconscious. You were dead. Check, I said, my eyes locked on his. Go look. Dr. Mira and Dr. Kumar exchanged glances. Then Kumar walked slowly toward the door. Toward the fire extinguisher mounted on the wall. He looked down. His face went white. He bent down and picked up a blue ballpoint pen. Reynolds, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. He turned the pen over in his hands. It's a Reynolds pen. The room erupted in whispers. Nurses looking at each other. Dr. Mira staring at me with wide eyes. There's more, I said, my strength returning moment by moment. Nurse Anita, you were praying in the corner. In Malayalam. You said, Yesu Christu, Karuna Andaku. Lord Jesus, have mercy. Please don't let him die. Anita gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. How could you possibly know that? I was whispering. I was facing the wall. You were dead. I heard you, I said. I heard everything. I saw everything. I was above my body, watching all of you try to save me. I turned to Dr. Kumar. You shocked me 3 times. 200 joules, then 300, then 360. Your hands were shaking. I'd never seen your hands shake before. Kumar stared at me. That's accurate. All of it. And there's a coffee stain on the ceiling, I continued, pointing up without looking. Shaped like the map of India. I saw it when I was floating. Before I entered the tunnel. Dr. Mira looked up. Her jaw dropped. He's right. There is a stain. I've never noticed it before, but she turned back to me. Rajesh, what happened to you? I died, I said simply. I left my body. I saw you trying to save me. And then I was pulled into a tunnel. A tunnel of light. And at the end, my voice broke. At the end, Jesus was waiting for me. Rajesh, Dr. Kumar said carefully, you experienced severe hypoxia. Oxygen deprivation to the brain can cause vivid hallucinations. Near-death experiences are well-documented phenomena. They're caused by. I know the medical explanations, I interrupted. I'm a cardiologist. I've read the studies. I know about hypoxia, about DMT release, about neural misfiring. I could list every naturalistic explanation for what I experienced. I sat up slowly, ignoring the protests from the medical staff, ignoring the pain in my chest, ignoring everything except the fire burning in my heart. But I'm telling you, this wasn't a hallucination. This wasn't my dying brain playing tricks on me. I was more conscious, more aware, more alive in those 17 minutes than I've been in my entire 34 years on Earth. I saw heaven. I saw my sister, Priya, who died 17 years ago. I saw her, whole and healed and radiant. And I saw Jesus. I looked into his eyes. I touched his scars. He spoke to me. He showed me my entire life. Every moment. Every choice. Every person I've hurt. Tears were streaming down my face now. And he told me he loves me. Despite everything I've done. Despite 17 years of rejecting him, mocking him, denying his existence. He loves me. And he sent me back. He gave me a mission. He told me to tell everyone. My voice rose, filled with an urgency I'd never felt before. He told me to tell everyone that he's real. Heaven is real. Hell is real. And we have a choice. We have to choose. We have to choose Jesus. Not religion. Not ritual. Not good deeds. Jesus. He is the only way. The room was silent. Everyone staring at me. Some with skepticism. Some with wonder. Some with fear. Dr. Mira spoke first, her voice soft. Rajesh, you've been through severe trauma. We need to test me, I said firmly. Run every neurological test you have. CT scan, MRI, EEG, everything. Check my brain function. You'll find zero damage. After 17 minutes without oxygen, I should be a vegetable. I should have massive brain damage. I should be unable to speak, unable to think, unable to function. I looked each of them in the eye. But I'm fine. Better than fine. My mind is clearer than it's ever been. Because Jesus healed me. He sent me back whole. He gave me everything I need to fulfill his mission. I paused, then added quietly, and he's giving you all a choice too. You can dismiss this as hallucination. As oxygen deprivation. As medical phenomenon. Or you can just consider that maybe, just maybe, there's more to reality than what we can measure in a laboratory. Over the next 3 hours, they ran every test imaginable. CT scan, normal. No brain damage. MRI, normal. No lesions, no swelling, no evidence of hypoxic injury. EEG, normal. Brainwave patterns perfectly healthy. Neurological exam, perfect. Memory intact. Cognitive function intact. Motor skills intact. Every doctor who reviewed my results said the same thing, this is impossible. 17 minutes without oxygen should have left me brain dead or severely impaired. Instead, I was medically perfect. A miracle. But the medical evidence wasn't what convinced me I'd really experienced what I'd experienced. I already knew. I knew in my bones, in my soul, in every fiber of my being. What convinced me was what happened next. They moved me to a recovery room. Private. Quiet. Just me and the steady beep of monitors confirming I was alive. I was alone for the first time since waking up. And that's when I saw it. On the small table beside my bed, someone had placed my personal belongings. My watch. My wedding ring, which they'd removed during resuscitation. My wallet. And something else. The Bible. Thomas's Bible. The one he'd given me 6 months ago. The one I'd thrown in the trash. He must have brought it. Must have left it here while I was unconscious, still hoping, still praying, still believing that somehow, someway, I'd finally read it. I reached for it with trembling hands. The same hands that had thrown it away with contempt. The same hands that had touched Jesus' scars. I opened it to a random page. John 3 verse 16. The words seemed to glow on the page. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. I read it again. And again. And again. Each word landing in my heart like a hammer blow. Like truth. Like love. God so loved. He gave his Son. Whoever believes shall not perish, but have eternal life. It was all there. Everything Jesus had shown me. Everything he told me. Everything I'd experienced. Compressed into one verse. One promise. One invitation. Jesus, I whispered, clutching the Bible to my chest. Jesus, I believe. I believe. You're real. You're Lord. You're Savior. And I'm yours. Completely. Totally. Forever. I surrender. I surrender everything to you. And in that moment, alone in that hospital room, monitors beeping, fluorescent lights humming, I felt him. Not visibly. Not audibly. But tangibly. His presence. His peace. His love. Like he'd said at the gates of heaven, I'll never leave you. Never forsake you. He was here. Still with me. Living in me now. I wasn't alone. I would never be alone again. The door opened. I looked up, expecting a nurse. It was Kavita. My wife. The woman I'd neglected for 6 years. The woman I'd never told I love you. The woman who'd been 3 days away from leaving me. She stood in the doorway, her face streaked with tears, her hands clutching her purse like a lifeline. Rajesh, she whispered. They said you died. They said your heart stopped for 17 minutes. They said. She broke down, sobbing. I did something I'd never done in 6 years of marriage. I opened my arms to her. Kavita, I said, my voice thick with emotion. Come here. Please. She ran to me. Collapsed into my arms. Sobbed into my chest. And I held her. Really held her. Not as an obligation. Not as a duty. But with love. Real, genuine, Jesus-given love. I'm so sorry, I whispered into her hair. I'm so sorry for 6 years of silence. 6 years of coldness. 6 years of treating you like you didn't matter. I was wrong. I was so wrong. She pulled back, looking at me with confusion and hope warring in her eyes. Rajesh, what happened to you? You're different. I died, I said simply. I died, and I met Jesus. And he changed me. He showed me what my life looked like. He showed me how I hurt you. How I failed you. How I took your love for granted and gave you nothing in return. I took her face in my hands, looking into her eyes, really seeing her for the first time in 6 years. Kavita, I love you. I love you. I should have said it every single day for 6 years. I should have shown it in 1,000 ways. But I was blind. I was dead inside. But Jesus, he brought me back. He gave me life. Real life. And he's given me the chance to love you the way he loves me. The way you deserve to be loved. She was crying harder now, but these were different tears. Tears of joy. Tears of relief. Tears of hope. I prayed for you, she sobbed. Every single day. I prayed that God would touch your heart. That he would open your eyes. That he would. He did, I said, tears streaming down my own face. He answered your prayers. He brought me home. Not just back to earth, home to him. And home to you. I pulled her close again, holding her like I should have held her every day of our marriage. I have so much to tell you, I whispered. So much I've seen. So much I've learned. But right now, I just need you to know, you are precious to me. You are valued. You are loved. And I will spend the rest of my life proving that to you. She clung to me, laughing and crying simultaneously. I believe you, she whispered. I don't know what happened to you, but I believe you. Over the next few days, word spread through the hospital. Dr. Rajesh Kumar, the atheist cardiologist who mocked faith, had a near-death experience and came back proclaiming Jesus. Some people were skeptical. Some were curious. Some were hostile. But some were hungry. Thomas was the first to visit. When he walked into my room and saw the Bible open on my lap, he stopped in the doorway, his eyes wide. Rajesh, he said carefully. Is that the Bible I gave you? Yes, I said, smiling through tears. And Thomas, I'm so sorry. I threw it in the trash. 6 months ago, when you gave it to me, I threw it away. And you found it. You cleaned it off. You kept praying for me even though I mocked you, even though I rejected you. Thomas's eyes filled with tears. You know about that? Jesus showed me, I said. He showed me everything. He showed me how you cried for me. How you prayed for me. How you never gave up on me even when I gave you every reason to. I stood up, walking to him despite the protests from the monitoring equipment, despite the force still in my arm. I embraced him. My friend. My brother. The man who'd planted seeds for years, watering them with prayers, waiting for harvest. Thank you, I whispered. Thank you for loving me when I was unlovable. Thank you for showing me Jesus even when I couldn't see him. Thank you for never giving up. Thomas sobbed into my shoulder. He's real, isn't he? You saw him. You met him. Yes, I said, pulling back to look at him. He's real. He's so real. And he loves you, Thomas. He told me you're faithful. That you're a light in this hospital. That your prayers matter. That your witness matters. Thomas fell to his knees, raising his hands in worship. Thank you, Jesus, he cried. Thank you for saving my friend. Thank you for answering my prayers. And I knelt beside him. And together, the former atheist and the faithful witness, we worshiped Jesus in that hospital room. By the end of the week, 19 people in the hospital had given their lives to Christ. Nurses who'd heard my story. Doctors who'd seen my medical impossibility. Patients who'd heard me sharing about Jesus from my hospital bed. 19 souls. Just the beginning. Because Jesus had told me, I had 53 more years to live. 53 years to share this testimony. 53 years to snatch souls from the fire. And I intended to use every single day. Every single hour. Every single breath. For him. Because he gave me life. Real life. Eternal life. And now that life was his. Completely. Totally. Forever. That was 6 months ago. 6 months since I died and came back. 6 months since Jesus transformed me from a proud atheist into a humbled witness. 6 months since my life became his life. And everything has changed. The first change happened before I even left the hospital. I used to have panic attacks about death. Ironic, considering I was a cardiologist who dealt with death regularly. But the thought of my death, of ceasing to exist, of oblivion, it terrified me. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. with my heart racing, cold sweat on my skin, consumed by existential dread. That fear is gone. Completely. Utterly. Gone. Not because I'm in denial. Not because I've repressed it. But because I've seen what's waiting. I've stood at the gates of heaven. I've looked into Jesus' eyes. I've embraced my sister who died 17 years ago. Death isn't the end. It's the beginning. Now, when I think about death, my eventual death, whenever Jesus decides to call me home, I feel excitement. Anticipation. Like a child on Christmas Eve, waiting for morning. I'm not suicidal. I'm not reckless. I value this life Jesus gave back to me. But I no longer fear the transition. Because I know who is waiting on the other side. The second change was immediate and visible to everyone who knew me, my marriage. Kavita and I were not the same couple we were 6 months ago. We're not even close to being the same. I tell her I love her. Every single day. Multiple times a day. Not mechanically. Not out of obligation. But because I feel it now. Because Jesus opened my heart and showed me how to love the way He loves. We pray together now. Every morning before I leave for work. Every night before we sleep. Kavita leads most of the prayers. She's been walking with God longer than I have. But sometimes I pray. And she tells me my prayers make her cry because she never thought she'd hear her husband talk to Jesus. Last month, I surprised her with something she'd wanted for years, a proper honeymoon. We never had one 6 years ago. I was too busy with my career, too focused on myself. So I took 2 weeks off. We went to Kerala. We stayed in a small cottage near the backwaters. And we just lived. Together. Really together. Not as roommates. Not as strangers sharing a house. But as husband and wife, the way God designed marriage. On the last night of our trip, we were sitting on the veranda, watching the sunset paint the water gold and crimson. Kavita turned to me, tears in her eyes. I have my husband back, she whispered. Actually, I have a new husband. The man I married 6 years ago, he's gone. And in his place is someone I never dared hope for. Someone who sees me. Loves me. Chooses me every single day. She paused, her voice breaking. Jesus gave me back my husband. But more than that, He gave me the husband I always prayed for. I held her as she cried. And I thanked Jesus again for not giving up on me. For saving my marriage along with my soul. Not everything has been beautiful. Some changes have cost me dearly. 2 months after my experience, I had a meeting with the hospital administration. They'd heard about my testimony. About how I was telling patients, staff, anyone who would listen about Jesus. Dr. Kumar, the director, said carefully, "We appreciate your passion. But this is a secular hospital. We serve people of all faiths, Hindus, Muslims, Christians, atheists, everyone. We can't have doctors proselytizing to patients." "I'm not proselytizing," I said calmly. "I'm sharing my testimony. I'm telling people what happened to me. I died, and I met Jesus. That's a fact of my experience. I can't not tell people about it." The director sighed. "We're asking you officially to keep your religious beliefs private. Treat patients. Save lives. But stop talking about your near-death experience during work hours." I looked at him. This man I'd worked under for 7 years. This man who'd always respected me, promoted me, valued my skills. And I said something I never thought I'd say. No, his eyebrows shot up. "Excuse me? I can't do that," I said. "Jesus gave me a mission. He sent me back specifically to tell people about Him. I can't be silent. I won't be silent. If that costs me my job," I paused, feeling the weight of the words, "then it costs me my job. But I will not stop talking about the one who saved me." 3 days later, I was asked to resign. Not fired, they were careful about that. But encouraged to pursue other opportunities where my religious convictions would be more appropriate. I cleaned out my office. 7 years of my life, packed into 3 cardboard boxes. My medical degree on the wall. My awards and certifications. Photos with colleagues. All of it gone. Thomas helped me carry the boxes to my car. He was crying. "This isn't fair," he said. "You're the best cardiologist this hospital has. They're making a mistake." "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe Jesus is redirecting me. Maybe I was never supposed to spend my whole life in a hospital. Maybe He has something else planned." I didn't know then how right I was. Within a week, a small Christian medical clinic in the outskirts of Chennai contacted me. They'd heard about my testimony. Heard about why I'd left Apollo Hospital. "We can't pay you what Apollo paid," the director said honestly. "We serve mostly poor communities. We operate on donations. But if you're willing, we'd be honored to have you. And here, you can share your faith freely. That's not just permitted, it's encouraged." I took the job immediately. My salary is now 1/3 of what it was. 1/3. Kavita and I had to move out of our nice apartment in the city. We now live in a smaller flat closer to the clinic. We sold my car and bought a used motorcycle. We canceled our streaming subscriptions, our gym memberships, all the luxuries I'd taken for granted. And you know what? I've never been happier. Because I'm not living for money anymore. I'm not living for status or prestige or career advancement. I'm living for Jesus. And that makes every sacrifice worth it. Not everyone has been supportive. I lost friends. Real friends. People I'd known for years. Some thought I'd had a mental breakdown. Some thought I was using religion as a coping mechanism for trauma. Some just couldn't accept the change. There was a WhatsApp group I'd been part of for 8 years, my medical school classmates. 15 of us. We stayed in touch, shared memes, celebrated each other's successes. 2 months after my experience, I shared my testimony in the group. The full story. What happened? What I saw. Who I met. The responses were mixed. A few were supportive. Wow, Rajesh. That's incredible. So happy for you. But most were skeptical. Some were hostile. Rajesh, you experienced hypoxia. This is textbook near-death hallucination. You need therapy, not religion. I expected better from you, Dr. Kumar. You were always the rational one. Now you sound like a street preacher. Please stop with this Jesus nonsense. We're educated people. We don't need superstition. The worst came from my closest friend in the group. Arjun. We'd been roommates in medical school. Best friends for over a decade. He called me personally. Rajesh, I'm worried about you, he said. This isn't like you. You've always been logical, scientific, rational. Now you're spouting this religious propaganda like you've joined a cult. What happened to you? I died, Arjun, I said calmly. I met Jesus. He changed me. That's what happened. No, Arjun said, his voice sharp. What happened is you experienced severe trauma and your brain created a comforting narrative to cope with it. This Jesus you met, he's a projection. A psychological defense mechanism. You need to talk to a psychiatrist, not a priest. I've been evaluated, I said. Multiple neurological exams. Psychiatric assessment. I'm medically sound, Arjun. My brain is fine. What I experienced wasn't hallucination, it was reality. More real than this conversation. There was a long silence. I can't do this, Arjun finally said. I can't watch my intelligent friend turn into a religious fanatic. I'm done. Don't contact me again. He hung up. 3 days later, I was removed from the WhatsApp group. 15 friends. Reduced to 3 who still talk to me. It hurt. I won't lie. It hurt. But Jesus warned me this would happen. He told me I'd face rejection. That people would call me crazy. That I'd lose relationships. And he also reminded me, whoever acknowledges me before others, I will also acknowledge before my Father in heaven. But whoever disowns me before others, I will disown before my Father in heaven. I'd rather lose every earthly friendship than lose Jesus. But there have been beautiful moments too. Moments of restoration that still make me cry. Remember Anjali? The medical school classmate whose scholarship I stole by cheating? The one Jesus showed me in my life review? I found her. It took 3 weeks of searching. Phone calls. Social media. Finally tracking her down through mutual contacts. She was working as a senior nursing assistant in a government hospital in Coimbatore. She'd never finished medical school. I called her. Asked if I could meet with her. She was confused, we hadn't spoken in over a decade, but she agreed. I drove 3 hours to Coimbatore. Met her in a small coffee shop near her hospital. She looked older than I remembered. Tired. But kind. Still kind, despite everything life had taken from her. Anjali, I said, my voice already breaking, I need to tell you something. And I need to ask for your forgiveness. I told her everything. About the exam. About the answer I copied. About the scholarship. About how I'd stolen her dream. I know I can never give you back those years, I said, tears streaming down my face. I know I can never undo what I did. But I'm begging for your forgiveness. What I did was wrong. It was theft. And I'm so sorry. Anjali sat there, tears running down her own face. I always wondered, she whispered. I always wondered how you scored higher. I knew that answer. I was sure I got it right. But I thought maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I wasn't as good as I thought I was. She wiped her eyes, looking at me with a mixture of pain and something else. Something softer. Why are you telling me this now? After all these years? Because I met Jesus, I said simply. I died, and he showed me what my sins cost. He showed me you. Your pain, Your lost dreams. And he told me to make it right as much as I can. I pulled out an envelope. Inside was a check. For 500,000 rupees. Everything I'd saved over the past 6 months, plus money from selling my car. This won't erase what I did, I said. But it's equivalent to what that scholarship would have been worth, adjusted for inflation. Plus interest. Plus an amount for the lost years of medical practice. I calculated it all. Anjali stared at the check, her hands trembling. Rajesh, this is too much. I can't. Please, I said. Please take it. Use it to finish medical school if you still want to. Or use it for your family. Or donate it. Whatever you want. But please, let me do this. Let me try to make this right. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she did something I didn't expect. She tore up the check. My heart sank. She was rejecting it. Rejecting my attempt at restitution. But then she spoke. I don't want your money, Rajesh, she said softly. I wanted my dream back. But I can't have that. Those years are gone. That opportunity is gone. She paused, fresh tears flowing. But you know what? I forgive you. I forgive you. Not because you deserve it. Not because this money makes it right. But because that's what Jesus taught me to do. To forgive. Even when it costs me everything. She smiled through her tears. I'm a Christian, Rajesh. Have been for 5 years now. And when I gave my life to Jesus, I gave him all my bitterness too. All my anger about lost opportunities. All my questions about what if. I gave it all to him. And he gave me peace. We both cried. And then we prayed together. And she did forgive me. Really, truly forgave me. She eventually accepted a smaller amount, enough to help her son's education. And we stay in touch now. Not as old classmates. But as brother and sister in Christ. In 6 months, I've shared my testimony 127 times. In churches. In homes. In hospitals. In small groups. Wherever people will listen. And Jesus has used it. 83 people have given their lives to Christ after hearing my story. 83 souls. I keep track. I pray for each of them by name. Some were atheists like I was. Some were Hindus searching for truth. Some were Muslims who'd heard about Jesus but never understood who he really is. Some were lukewarm Christians who needed to be awakened. One man, a software engineer named Vikram, came to me after I spoke at his company's lunchtime fellowship group. I've been a Christian for 15 years, he said. But it's been cultural. Traditional. My parents were Christians, so I'm a Christian. I go to church. I pray before meals. But it's all been empty. He looked at me with desperate eyes. But the way you talk about Jesus, like he's real. Like he's actually present. Like you know him, not just know about him, I want that. I need that. How do I get that? We prayed together. Right there in his office cafeteria. And Jesus met him. Not in a vision. Not in a near-death experience. But in a quiet, profound encounter that changed everything. Vikram texted me 2 weeks later, I'm not the same. Jesus is alive in me now. I feel him. I hear him. I know him. Thank you for showing me what real faith looks like. That's happened 83 times. 83 people whose eternities have changed because Jesus used my story. But there's been opposition too. Real, tangible opposition. Some Hindu nationalist groups in Chennai have labeled me a conversion agent. They've protested outside the clinic where I work. They've sent threatening messages online. Stop spreading your foreign religion. India is a Hindu nation. Keep your Jesus propaganda to yourself. You're destroying Indian culture with your Western beliefs. I've been spat on. Twice. Once outside a temple where I was sharing my testimony with a group of curious anchors. Once outside my own apartment building. My family, my parents, have distanced themselves from me. They're ashamed. Their son, the successful doctor, has become what they call a fanatic. My mother called me 3 months ago, crying. Rajesh, why are you doing this? Why are you bringing shame on our family? Why can't you just keep your beliefs private and live a normal life? Because Jesus didn't keep his love private, Amma, I said gently. He went to a cross. Public execution. Public humiliation. Public suffering. All for me. For you. For everyone. How can I stay silent about that? She hung up without responding. I haven't spoken to my parents since. It breaks my heart. But Jesus warned me, anyone who loves their father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. I love my parents. But I love Jesus more. And I'm trusting that one day, maybe soon, maybe years from now, they'll see what I see. They'll know what I know. They'll meet the Jesus who changed their son. So what does my life look like now? I wake up at 5 a.m. every morning. Not because I have to. Because I want to. I spend an hour with Jesus. Reading his word. Praying. Worshipping. Just being with him. That time is sacred. Non-negotiable. More important than food, than sleep, than anything else. Because I've tasted his presence. I've experienced what it's like to stand before him. And now, every moment I spend in prayer, in worship, in his word, it's like a down payment on eternity. A glimpse of home. I go to work at the clinic. I treat patients, most of them poor, many of them sick with diseases that could have been prevented if they'd had access to better healthcare earlier. And I love them. Really love them. Not with my own love, I don't have enough. But with Jesus' love flowing through me. I pray with every patient who's willing. I share my testimony with anyone who asks. I've seen miracles, actual, medical miracles, happen in that clinic. A woman with stage 4 cancer who was given weeks to live? We prayed over her. She's now cancer-free. 6 months later. The oncologists can't explain it. A child with a congenital heart defect that required surgery we couldn't afford? We prayed. A donor appeared anonymous and paid for everything. A man who came in suicidal, hopeless, planning to end his life that night? We shared Jesus with him. He gave his life to Christ. He's now volunteering at the clinic, helping other people find hope. This is my life now. Less money. Less prestige. Less comfort. But more joy. More peace. More purpose than I ever had in my old life. Now I need to talk to you. Yes, you. Whoever is watching this video right now. You're not here by accident. You didn't click on this video randomly. Jesus led you here. He wanted you to hear this message. Because he loves you. And he wants you to know him before it's too late. I know what you're thinking. I know, because I was you. This is just a hallucination. Brain hypoxia. DMT release. Dying neurons firing randomly. I know all the arguments. I made all those arguments for 17 years. But explain this to me. How did I see that blue pen on the floor when I was clinically dead? How did I hear Nurse Anita's prayer when she was whispering in a corner? How did I return with 0 brain damage after 17 minutes without oxygen? The medical literature says that's impossible. After 10 minutes, irreversible damage occurs. After 17? I should be a vegetable. But I'm not. I'm fine. Better than fine. You can call it coincidence. You can call it anomaly. You can create elaborate explanations to avoid the obvious conclusion. Or you can just consider that maybe, just maybe, there's more to reality than what we can measure in a laboratory. Maybe consciousness doesn't originate in the brain. Maybe it just uses the brain, the way a radio uses circuitry to receive signals. Maybe when the brain dies, consciousness doesn't end, it just gets released. Released to its source. Released to eternity. Released to face the God you've been denying your whole life. I'm telling you, as someone who spent 17 years as an atheist, as someone with medical training, as someone who knows the science, Jesus is real. And one day, you'll stand before him. The question is, will you acknowledge him now? Or wait until it's too late? I respect your faith. I respect your devotion to God. I know you pray 5 times a day. I know you revere Jesus ISA as a prophet. But I'm telling you something that might be hard to hear. Jesus is more than a prophet. I saw him. I touched his scars. The scars from crucifixion, the crucifixion your Quran says didn't happen. But it did happen. I saw the wounds. I felt them. He chose to keep them. He said to me, I died for you. I died. Not someone else in my place. Me. I took your sins. I paid your debt. The Quran teaches that Allah is merciful. And he is. But the question is, how is he merciful? How can a just God forgive sin without punishing it? The answer is the cross. Jesus took the punishment. Jesus paid the price. Jesus bridged the gap between holy God and sinful humanity. Not Muhammad. Not any prophet. Jesus. I'm not asking you to reject everything you believe. I'm asking you to consider what I'm telling you. I died. I met him. He's calling you. He loves you. He died for you. And he's saying, come to me. Not through rituals. Not through works. Through faith. Through surrender. Through love. I grew up Hindu. I know the teachings. Karma. Reincarnation. Many paths to God. But I'm telling you, there's one path. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, the life. And no one comes to the Father except through me. Not one way among many. The way. The only way. I know that sounds exclusive. Intolerant. Arrogant. But it's not arrogance when it's truth. If I told you there's only one cure for cancer, you wouldn't call me intolerant. You'd call me informed. Jesus is the cure for sin. The cure for death. The cure for separation from God. Not Krishna. Not Rama. Not Shiva. Jesus. I saw heaven. I saw my sister there. She's not reincarnated. She's not part of some cosmic consciousness. She's herself, whole, complete, individual, alive. There's no cycle of rebirth. There's this life and then eternity. You get one chance. One life. One choice. Choose Jesus. This might be the hardest message. Because you know the truth. You've heard about Jesus. Maybe you even go to church, read your Bible occasionally, pray before meals. But is he Lord of your life? Really? Or is he just an add-on? A religious accessory? Someone you acknowledge on Sundays but ignore the rest of the week? Jesus isn't looking for fans. He's looking for followers. He's not looking for people who intellectually agree with doctrine. He's looking for people who are radically, passionately, completely devoted to him. I met him. I looked into his eyes. And I'm telling you, he's coming back. Soon. Sooner than most people think. And he's not looking for perfect church attendance. He's not checking off religious boxes. He's looking at hearts. Is your heart alive for him? Or is it just lukewarm? Revelation 3 verse 16 says, "So, because you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, I am about to spit you out of my mouth." That's Jesus talking. To Christians. To people who claim his name but live like the world. Wake up. Please. Wake up. Live like eternity is real. Because it is. Live like Jesus is coming back. Because he is. Live like every moment matters. Because it does. Here's what I need you to understand. Heaven is real. I've been there. I've seen it. It's more beautiful, more glorious, more perfect than anything you can imagine. Hell is real. I saw it from a distance. I heard the screams. I felt the hopelessness. It's more terrifying than your worst nightmare. And you will spend eternity in one of those two places. There's no third option. No reincarnation. No annihilation. No spiritual but not religious middle ground. Heaven or hell. Jesus or separation from Jesus. That's it. That's the choice. And you make that choice here. On earth. Before you die. After death? It's too late. There's no second chance. No purgatory. No opportunity to rethink your decision. Hebrews 9 verse 27 says, people are destined to die once, and after that to face judgment. Once. You die once. And then judgment. So I'm begging you, don't wait. Don't wait for your own near-death experience. Don't wait until you're on your deathbed. Don't wait until it's convenient or comfortable or socially acceptable. Choose Jesus now. Today. Right now. If you're watching this and you've never given your life to Jesus, or if you've been a lukewarm Christian and you want to really surrender to him, pray this prayer with me right now. You don't have to say it perfectly. You don't have to be in a church. You don't have to clean up your life first. Just mean it. From your heart. With sincerity. Pray with me. Jesus, I believe you are real. I believe you died on the cross for my sins. I believe you rose again on the third day. I believe you're alive right now, hearing this prayer. I'm sorry for my sins. For living for myself instead of for you. For rejecting you, ignoring you, denying you. I'm asking you to forgive me. To save me. To come into my life and be my Lord, not just my Savior, but my Master, my King, my everything. I surrender. Completely. Totally. Forever. I'm yours, Jesus. I'm yours. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for dying for me. Thank you for giving me eternal life. I believe. I receive. I surrender. In Jesus' name, amen. If you prayed that prayer and you meant it, everything just changed. You just made the most important decision of your life. You just secured your eternity. You just became part of the family of God. Welcome home, brother. Welcome home, sister. Angels are rejoicing over you right now. Jesus is rejoicing over you. You're saved. You're forgiven. You're loved. And when your time on earth is done, when you take your final breath, you won't face judgment. You won't face hell. You'll wake up in heaven. In the arms of Jesus. Home. Forever. I don't know how much longer I have on earth. Jesus told me 53 more years, but he's God, he can change the timeline if he wants. What I do know is this, every breath I take from this moment forward belongs to him. Every word I speak will point to him. Every action will reflect him. Because he saved me. Not just from physical death, from eternal death. He pulled me out of darkness and brought me into his light. And I will spend the rest of my life and all of eternity worshiping Him, serving Him, loving Him. This is my testimony. This is my mission. This is my life. And if my story has impacted you, if it's made you think, made you question, made you seek Jesus, then every hardship, every sacrifice, every moment of persecution has been worth it. Because you matter. Your soul matters. Your eternity matters. Don't waste it. Don't waste another day living for yourself, for this world, for temporary things that will burn away. Live for Jesus. Live for eternity. Live like you've seen what I've seen, because one day, you will. And when that day comes, I pray I'll see you there. In heaven. At home. With Jesus. Forever.